Forgot to press the right button there. Anyway, welcome. Good afternoon on this lovely Wednesday, slightly drab day weather-wise. We are 2 minutes past. So if anybody wants to say hello or ask any questions, pop them in the comments because I answer them as we go through this sort of Facebook Live. So anyway, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Carl Thomas. I run Beyond the Lens Academy, and I'm also the owner and founder of Carl Thomas Photography, which you can probably see on my shirt there. There you go. Which is a very large, fast-growing dog photography business. Set it up about 5 years ago, and it's taken off beyond all my wildest dreams, which is great. Is this a comment or is this have a look? Let's see. Hi Sue, welcome. So let me just tell you a little bit about why I set up Beyond the Lens Academy. Hello, Rob. The main reason was, through my journey, and I've been a photographer for a long time, 30 years plus probably. I set the dog photography business up nearly 6 years ago now, 5.5 years. And it's been a success, it's going really well, and it's a constantly evolving business, as most photography businesses are. But through that journey, I went on various different things to learn more about that particular genre and just generally photography, because there's lots to learn. And so I went on webinars, I watched YouTube videos, I bought online courses, I went on face-to-face workshops, did all the various things that are available out there. And all of it's pretty good. Some of it was a bit average, but most of it's pretty good. But one thing that struck me was none of it was in one place. It was all very sporadic, and as a result, in different styles. And so what we've done with the Academy, so the Academy, Beyond the Lens Academy, let me put the website on here. I know it's in the Facebook post somewhere, but I'll put it on here just so you know. Let's spell it right, might help, mightn't it? Beyond the Lens Academy. If I spell it right, because if I get it wrong, it will not look good, will it? Beyond the Lens Academy, that looks right to me. Beyond the Lens. Yeah. So www.beyond the Lens. Oh, well, let me put it on YouTube. That's bizarre. Anyway, beyondthelensacademy.com was set up and exists and is doing really well. And we have lots of very happy members in there. But what it is an online training support platform, and it's sort of based on my journey, that has something, facilities and support and content for every level of photographer. So if you're a beginner and you just got your first camera, or all you've got is a smartphone, and say all you've got, they can take fantastic photos if you know what you're doing with them. And you're looking to sort of learn, get off auto, or you've been a beginner for a while and you want to get more from your photography. We've got a beginner section for that. If you're an amateur and you want to learn more about birds in flight, how to get the best settings, get those really standout shots, or landscape photography, people photography, street photography, whatever it might be, we cover that in the middle section, I suppose you could call it, which is mainly for amateurs. And then we've got pro aspiring pro. So that's people who've got a business. So we've got a real mixture of people in there. People have joined the Academy with existing businesses where they want to supercharge it, if you like, and really change direction, or do what I've managed to do in terms of getting the followers I've got and so on. We've got people who've joined who are, especially given the environment we've had over the last 6 months or so, have gone, I'm going to actually see if I can make a living from my passion. And believe me, you can. It is not beyond the realms of anybody. So evening, Andrew, afternoon, Andrew, even. There are people in there who've joined with a view of setting up businesses, and we've had some people a number of members actually have joined, set up a business. We've got one of our members joined a month or so ago, a couple of months ago actually, when we looked with the last intake, if you like, set up a business, and I work with him on a one-to-one basis, because that's one of the things we do with the Academy for the pros and aspiring pros. Website, Facebook, social media strategy, all that kind of stuff, all done. Went live less than a week, got 400 followers, getting bookings, and doing really well already. So if you're thinking about photography as an income stream, then I would seriously consider joining the Academy. I set it up originally as a bit of a hobby, and a lot of people start that. We've got a lot of people in the Academy who've gone, I quite like what you're doing, Carl. I understand you, because I share all my information. There's no holds barred. There's no secrets. Everything in my business that I have done to get where I've got so far and continue to go is open to everybody. And so we've got people who've joined who've maybe been thinking, I do it as a bit of a hobby. And so they'll do it on a part-time basis. So it's not all about being a full-time professional. But also there are some people in the Academy who've joined at a beginner and amateur level and have gone up to the sort of pro aspiring pro level, because we can upgrade quite easily in the system, because there's unlimited one-to-ones. And I'll come on to all that in a minute in terms of that kind of access. But let me just tell you a little bit more about some of the things that are in the Academy. And I won't spend lots of time on it because I appreciate it's lunchtime and you don't have a great deal of time, but I'll just flick through them and then I'll show you some images and we can get into some questions and answers. So if anybody's got questions you want to know about, drop it in the comments. So direct message facility, one of the things that sets us apart from a lot of online content at the moment, and as you'll have seen, there's more and more of it turning up, is that a lot of them you'll log on and you like the look of what they're saying and everything else, and they're good, nothing wrong with them, and you pay whatever you pay, and then you get access to 10 videos, 20 videos, 30 videos, whatever it might be, your library, I suppose, and that's it. There's no interaction. So this is a live organic platform. So there is recorded content, but that's all recorded with the members. So you don't just log on and become a member and then just sit and watch videos. It's interactive content, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the other things. But one of the most important things is you can talk to me whenever you like, whatever level you're in the academy at. Drop me a message, and if you look at the reviews on the Facebook page, on Beyond the Lens Academy Facebook page, you'll see what people are saying. We have a private Facebook group, very popular, and that's all part of being the academy, so you get access to that if you're a member. And also if you do any of our workshops, I'll come on to that, you also get access to that. But that's very popular. We've got online learning modules, and I always say this when I do these, you'd expect that. So it goes back to my point that if you join as a member now, beginner, amateur, or pro, whichever level you're at, there's also a thing called the Hub that everybody gets, which has got content that spreads across all of the different genres and levels. And so there's tons of content in there. There's loads of resources. I must count the number of videos and stuff that's in there. There's heaps of content, but it's a constantly growing thing. So like last week I did about 5. I think I've done 2 already this week, and there's another one later on today. And what we do is we record those live with members who want to come along. So I'll say I'm going to be doing did one yesterday on lens ball photography, for example. And so members that were available could come along, and I'll go live like this. It's all confidentially recorded, so it's not public, it's done on our system. And I was talking about lens ball photography. What is it? How to use it? What are the risks? What are the settings? All that kind of stuff. And people, like we have today, come into the comments, and members will say, "Oh, Carl, where's the best place to get the lens ball? Which is the best one, the large one or the small one? And what about settings?" And so the videos that are being recorded, the webinars, if you like, have a little bit more interest in them because there's some interaction with me and members asking relevant questions. And then when they're uploaded into the academy, so they become part of your library then, so you log on, you can see them, you can still continue to comment. So they're almost like a Facebook post within there. So they're an ongoing, growing thing. Let's see if we've got any comments on here. Let's have a look. Oh, I'll have a look at that in a minute, Darren. So Darren, drop me a message after this, and we'll have a look. So I suspect one of the things to your question actually is sometimes people, in fact, not sometimes, mostly photographers at whatever level, their own personal impression of their photography versus the reality is usually very different. The good news is 99 times out of 100, 90 times out of 100 maybe, their photography is a lot better than they think. And the reason for that is largely because photography is a bit of well, there's 2 reasons, I think, in my experience, is it's largely a sort of a solo, lonely kind of thing. So you might be going out taking photos of dogs, which obviously that's what I do, so I'm a bit biased with dogs. But I'm going to do wildlife and everything else as well. Or you're out doing wildlife and you're sort of on your own, and your feedback loop tends to be your friends, your mates, or maybe stuff you put on Facebook. And so you don't get people often that are professional photographers or people who've got the knowledge to be able to say, do you know what? In my experience, that's a good photo. And I can tell you, there's lots of people in the academy that I've said that to, and they're like, really? Yeah. I said, yeah, no, that's a really good photo. And so, yes, I'll happily have a look at that. I'll have a look at, drop me a message, direct message, and I'll happily have a look and sort of give you my thoughts on that. So, got this cough again. Online learning modules. Right, let me go back to my banners. What else we got? Who doesn't have a mobile app these days? We have. It's very good. All the stuff's there. Is what it is. So I just talked about the webinar stroke training module. So what this is, what you're watching now today, is a Facebook Live, which is streamed to Carl Thomas Photography and the Beyond Lens Academy, and also YouTube. Although the YouTube is actually something that I've only recently set up, so I wouldn't spend too much time looking at that. But these are things I do free, and I generally like to try and do them once a week if I can. Maybe even twice. Just come on, tell people about the academy, and just answer questions. I mean, just like the questions we just had. So I think it's important. One of the things I definitely found in my journey on photography, and it's continuing, is that it's getting better, but it is hard to get honest, open advice. A lot of sort of photographers will be And I suppose in some ways I get it, a little bit secretive about their settings or their style or how they do things. And so I'm the opposite. We share everything. So that's why I do these Facebook Lives. I'm doing a loads this week because the membership is opening on Friday. Well, tomorrow night at midnight for 3 days. I'll come on to that in a minute. So your weekly group webinars, and they are done at different levels. So sometimes they're done for everybody, which goes in the hub. Sometimes it's for pros, amateurs, and beginners. There's usually one every week at each of those levels. There's also one that we've started doing, which is becoming very popular, which is called a freestyle webinar. It's a little bit like this, actually, in the sense that I just schedule it. People log on and have a look, and I'll talk about a particular topic or something, but I tend to leave it to the members to ask questions, and it gets really interesting because everybody comes up with whatever question they want to ask. So it's like a group one-to-one in a sense. This is quite popular. New gear review. So, there's so much going on in technology when it comes to the photographic world. It's that time of year when new cameras are coming out. Canon have got their R5 and R6. Some of our members have got them. Nikon have just recently launched their versions. So I will often come on and say, look, this is what I think. This is my perspective on mirrorless versus DSLR and, all the different things. But also, probably more importantly, what we will find in the academy with a lot of our members, they'll say, okay, because they join and they start getting feedback and they start doing the group and they start doing some of the other things, they start to fall in love with their camera again, at whatever level they're at, and they start using it more and they go, do you know what, I fancy upgrading. I want to get a new lens. And the most important thing that I'll do with that is that anybody that does that, sends me that comment, I'll do a one-to-one with them, because it is a minefield and it is important in photography, I think, at whatever level you're at, to make sure you get what you need, not what you want. Because what you might think you need in terms of photography equipment, big lenses, posh cameras, isn't necessarily the case. So I can save a lot of people a lot of money, which is quite good. Right, let's just see there's some more comments. Looking forward to June and next year. Oh yeah, no, Rob, brilliant. Good to see you. We were chatting the other day. So Rob's excited about setting up a new business, which is great. I love seeing things like that. Right, let's go down here. So we've got one of these tonight. So this is something else we do in the academy, and this goes back to the feedback loop I talk about and getting feedback. So as I say, we're very active. It's not just a load of it's not a load of videos. So what goes on with the group image critiques is the concept behind that is feedback. So I'll come up with a theme. The current one I think is autumn and/or water, and I keep it fairly vague. And so I set that up a couple of weeks ago, and there's a system in the academy. There's an online system where you log in and you upload 2 images based on that theme, one out of your camera, one with your edit on it, and all your settings. If you're not editing, that's fine, so people can just put the JPEG up. It's not a problem. And I then and the team collate all those, which we're doing this afternoon, and all the entries we've got. I'll put that into a nice presentation, and then I go live, which I'm doing this evening. I try and do those of an evening. I think we're doing tonight at 7 p.m. for all our members, because it's a better time of day for more people to be able to come on. And I'll literally go through each image, and I'll give critical analysis back. So not just, and that's an important thing to point out, not just, that's a nice photo, that's a really nice photo. Oh, I'm not sure about that one. And obviously members come in and say whether they like it or not, and there's comments and stuff. So it's very, very all good all round feedback. But I'll give what's called critical analysis. So I can tell people and help them with, technically why that image stands out. So if I see an image, I think, wow, that's brilliant. I can say things like that the composition's perfect, the rule of thirds is really good on there, the depth of field's right, and explain why I think the image is really positive in technical terms, so that you can continue to do that and repeat it. And the same goes for images that are less positive. I'd say, actually, this is a really good image, but actually maybe if you'd move the composition over that way a bit, or maybe the aperture needs to be deeper, or maybe your settings, your shutter speed was a bit slow. Editing is a huge part of photography, as we all know, and that's a big part of what we do in the academy at every level. I'm an Adobe accredited associate, so I'm pretty Adobe'd up, as it were. And so often we talk about the editing process, and maybe sometimes photography, the win or lose scenario in terms of an image being really, really good can all come down to the editing in terms of finishing it off. So we talk about that. So that's a really important. We do that. We try and do one every 3 weeks. So it's sort of one and a bit a month, every couple of weeks. Really popular. One-to-one image critique session. So we do the same concept, but with individuals. So some of the amateurs and some of the pros will say to me, it's quite regular actually, they'll say, right, Carl, I've got a portfolio I'm putting together. Can I just come on with you and just go through them and just tell me which ones you think are good and bad and stuff like that? Or if it's a client gallery, for some of our members who've got businesses or just set up business, and say, look, I've done a session with a client. I've gone through my images. These are the ones I think I want to show the client. And we'll have a conversation about that to sort of make sure the client gets the best images, which is important. So that's very popular. Now, this is where we get into some of the really good value in the academy. Everything else is, of course, but this is even better value. So the one-to-ones, everybody who joins the academy at whatever level, beginner, amateur, or aspiring pro, I do what's called an introduction one-to-one. So you log on, you get your password and everything else. You can start looking at your gallery and start, absorbing some of the content. But one of the things that's in there is a thing called a member profile. You log on, fill that out. It sends me a message to say you've done it, and then I'll schedule a one-to-one with every member. And that takes a lot of time, but it's a commitment I've made when I set this business up, that I want to spend at least an hour with everybody having a conversation once they've joined the academy based on the form they filled out that says, okay, so A, it's nice to meet in person. So I think that's really important. I know it's an e-meet, but it's really, really important, and it's live and real. And then have a conversation about why they joined the academy, and it's all on the form. What is they're trying to get from their photography, what's holding them back, what kind of equipment they've got, where they want to go. And one of the main reasons for that for me is to make sure that I've got a constant loop of information coming in from members at all levels about what they're looking for, to make sure that we deliver that in the academy. So one of the things we do in the academy when we are looking at the content, some things, so for example, I don't know, so some of the beginners, for example, getting off auto, there's a bit of a sequence, a logical sequence to learning about getting off auto, understanding your camera, understanding the exposure triangle and various elements. So there's kind of some logical steps for that. But what is definitely the case in photography is people want to learn things at different times of year and different points in their journey. And it is often similar. So for example, the other day, last week, we did a webinar about autumn colors. So it's autumn colors at the moment. So I thought, well, let's pop that in. That doesn't actually fit in a particular cycle, but it made sense. I'm doing one for the amateurs, I think it's later today, actually, all about photographing in inclement weather. Don't let our lovely seasons stop you getting out your camera. And there's lots of techniques and tips you can do to work and take the right kind of images in odd, overcast, wet light, but also thinking about your gear and how you look after it. So the monthly Juicy one-to-one is very popular. Now, if you join as an amateur, you get one of them a month, and I'm pretty flexible. And if you join as a pro aspiring pro, and this is extraordinary value, so much so that I'm under a lot of pressure from the finance team to stop it, but we're keeping it going for the moment, especially when it's going on. They're unlimited. No, let me say that again, they're unlimited. So what that means is, if you're in that category, and you'll be able to see all the prices on tomorrow night, because we're just finalising at the moment, it's unlimited access. So what you pay, you can come and have a one-to-one with me, and they're normally about an hour by the time we finish chit-chatting. I mean, most people don't do every day, obviously, but you could if you wanted to. And, most people who take advantage of that, who are in that level, will do it definitely at least once a week. Some do it a couple of times a week. And the reason for it is, I think it's great value, and it's something I want to help and support people with. So, we are probably going to be changing it. We're opening this time on Friday for 3 days, or midnight Thursday, tomorrow for 3 days. We may get one in before Christmas with everything that's going on. We're going to try our best, but so it's possible the next time we open, we may be changing this because I want to maintain the ability to support members who want to have regular one-to-ones. And the other reason I do it is because when you've got, especially if you've got a business or you're setting up a business, your challenge or the issue you might have doesn't come up on a Wednesday. It doesn't come up once a week. It comes up when it comes up. So I've got members, and I know I keep saying it, go and look at the reviews on the Facebook page. I've got members who I had one the other day on Sunday evening, had a bit of an issue with a gallery and a question about a client and some editing. So he messaged me, and we had a message conversation. And it's something I'm passionate about. Running a business is not a 9-to-5 thing in any kind of business, certainly not photography. So I'm available all the time. Anyway, then the last thing before I start showing some images and getting into so many questions you might have is the workshop. So if you remember, you get discounted photography workshops, and that applies to the 2-day ones that I run in Stratfield Say, which is in Duke Wellington Estate, south of Reading. We can't do any this month, obviously, for obvious reasons. We're hoping to try and get one in December. Probably not sure, but we'll be putting out the schedule for all of those next year. And if I think as a member, you get about 25% off, so that's really good value. And then the other workshops that we do, we've got 2 at the moment. I've teamed up with Alan Ward, a very good friend of mine, and published an award-winning wildlife photographer and videographer. And so we're up in Isla, in the Inner Hebrides next year in June for 2 weeks. The first week is sold out. Second week is almost full. On the website, have a look. The details are there. It is an amazing experience. And it's not just a week taking photographs of wildlife. It's landscapes. It's one-to-one conversations with me. It's all fully catered. So we sit around the evening, down the table in the evening, and have a nice dinner, maybe a glass or 2 of wine. And we'll just talk about photography. And it's small groups. It's not a huge amount of people. It's open to everybody from beginner to pro. So that's the workshop. So enough about the academy. Let me just see the comments. Any questions? No. Okay, right, that's fine. Right, so let me just talk about some of the things that we do in the academy. And for each member, I know I've just talked about that a little bit, but I'm just going to show you some images and things now. So, for one of the most popular things that I'll start in the middle. Let's start with amateurs. Amateurs, when they join, will say to me that they like doing will be wildlife photography or landscape photography. That's really popular. It's not the only thing. So, we'll talk about, how do you get images like this? What are the settings for those sort of images? Or here's a really popular kind of image. I'm trying to find it now. This one. Salmon rising and stuff like that. Birds in flight, very classic. So, I'll tell you. So on this image, this is up in Scotland on one of our workshops last year. So this is 2,000 per second shutter speed, so pretty fast because these things are moving fast. Although I'm panning with it, so and the reason I was able to keep the shutter speed not to the ISO down at a reasonable level is because I'm panning with it and I don't have the shutter speed too high. I use single point focus. Now I do know obviously that the latest mirrorless cameras are pretty amazing in terms of their tracking, but most DSLRs, single point focus on something like this is the best way, because if you use the other systems, it will pick the wing nearest, the wing furthest, or the heather in the background. You won't get a sharp shot. I like to shoot at 2.8, so I get a nice background blur, so it makes the image stand out. And then one of the other things on an image like this, people often ask me about it, is, you've got all the detail in it, it's all really sharp. And so one of the important things there is I always overexpose. And in the wildlife world, it's called ETTR. I'm not a fan, and you, again, look at the reviews. I like to keep things really simple. So I'm not a fan of acronyms because some people don't understand what they are. But what that basically means is you're just overexposing slightly. And ETTR means exposed to the right, which is basically the way you're going to be turning your where the meter goes, the needle in your viewfinder will go if you're overexposing slightly. And by overexposing slightly, you're going to see a little bit more detail. The other thing about overexposing slightly, so if you look at this image here, this shirt's, so it's just a normal, pretty reasonable webcam, but it's quite bright. And this is, so it's overexposing slightly in a sense. And so what that then means is if I was going to edit this image, so imagine this is an image, if I'm then in Lightroom editing this, I'm turning things down very slightly. It's not burnt out, all the details still be here, but I'm turning it down slightly. So dropping the highlights, dropping the shadows, and the exposure. And that does not add noise, or if it does, it's very minimal. Whereas if you do it the other way, the stuff behind me that's quite dark, imagine that's the subject. Obviously in this composition it wouldn't be, but imagine that subject. What you're then going to do, if you've got an image that looks like this, is you're going to be turning up things in Lightroom or Snapseed or Affinity Pro, because we don't just deal with Lightroom, so any editing platform we cover. So if you're having to increase the exposure slightly to get the detail in the back here, and maybe bring out shadows, that'll work. And if you've got you've shot in RAW and everything else, it'll be okay, but it will add noise. And noise, for those, if anybody's watching who doesn't know what that is, this is what noise looks like. So on the left it's nice and clean, and on the right it's noisy. And so that's all about keeping your ISO low, but it's not just ISO. That's another myth. People think ISO is the only thing that creates noise. So that's something I do there. And then, when it comes to things like landscapes, we talk about, long exposures. That's a very popular thing. Here's a beautiful shot on the west coast of Islay. And for those that are interested, this is around the quarter from the beautiful house that we're staying in June next year. So we'll be doing this for those that are coming. And there's a few people coming on the first week, and second week nearly full. And this is where we sit down and we talk about composition, long exposures, using filters. And so in this image, for example, I'll tell you, it's not a secret, I was using a 16-35mm lens, so reasonably wide angle on a full frame camera, my 1DX2, I think, from memory. And I think it was about a 30-second exposure. And how I achieved a longer exposure is you use an ND filter. And for those who don't know what that is, it's like they're either square or round. It's something you put on the front of your camera that's dark, that reduces the amount of light, so that you need a long exposure to get the exposure right. The strategy there is, by having a long exposure, you get the sea, because the sea is moving in and out, as you can see in this picture, almost looks like a painting, whereas the rocks are relatively sharp, or nice and sharp. In addition to that, on this particular image, we use what's called a graduated filter, which comes down from the top of the image, a bit like the tinted screen on the cars. So it starts off quite dark and gets gradually lighter, and you move that around and adjust it so that I can balance the exposure, so I can see the sun going down. And so, those sort of images can be unbelievably rewarding. It's a lovely place to be, just to be absorbing that. But getting those kind of shots is really quite good. Right, is this a question? Let's have a look. DJ, right. Hello, Carl. I was wondering how much you charge for digital files for your own clients, and the best way to price my own work. That's a good point, TJ. Drop me a message, and I'm more than happy to have a chat with you about that, because it is a complicated area, and that's one thing we do in the academy. And it kind of, the reason I'm not giving you a direct answer, because there's so many answers there. The way I do it, I've got what's called a very bespoke service. So my clients, I work with individually, and we put a package together based on what they want. It might be frames, it might be digitals, it might be a combination of both, it might be albums, and it's all related to budget and expectation and everything else. But drop me a message, because as a professional photographer, one of the most common things I come across for people in the academy, and we've helped countless people in the academy, is getting their pricing right. Typically, they're not charging enough. And there's a way of doing that to give the right value to your clients, but also making your business viable. Because, you know, if you're going out and not charging enough and you're not making a living and earning and being able to pay your bills, what's the point of doing that? So yeah, drop me a message, TJ. We're more than happy to have a chat about that. Right, let's go back to pictures. So that's sort of the kind of stuff, you know, the landscape stuff we do. Now, the other thing is another example of an image, the salmon one. Let me just find it. This is quite popular. Here we go. No, where is it? This. So that's the salmon. This is literally in October. We're up in Scotland for a week on one of our workshops, and you may notice at the top there, Farlow's Fun in the Field photo competition winner. So I won a prize, which is quite nice. But this image here, more importantly, is a salmon on its way up to the spawning grounds. And as you can imagine, that is a challenging photo to take. So I'll tell you how we do it. What we do is if you work with somebody like Alan Ward, if there's anything he doesn't know about salmon, it is not worth knowing. So he works with us on these trips. So he took us to places that I know where they're coming up, and we had reasonably good access. So you get a tripod set up. So you need a sturdy tripod. You need a remote shutter release, and you're going to be shooting in manual, and you're going to be shooting in manual focus as well. So all done manually. And what you do is you focus, and what you tend to try and do, depends how often the salmon are running. These aren't jumping up regularly, but they come up every now and again. Try and get an idea where you think they might run up. And what you're then trying to do is focus somewhere around that area by doing it manually. And I normally I like to shoot at 2.8, but as you can see in this image, there's probably a little bit more in focus, because I think I shot it at f4. So not massively different, but it gives me a slightly wider depth of field. So there's more room for where the salmon's likely to jump for it to be in focus. So you get yourself all set up like that, a sturdy tripod and a remote shutter release. And the reason you have a remote shutter release is the slightest little movement by touching the camera can, you know, make everything look out of focus, even though you've got a fast shutter speed. The other reason is it's more comfortable, because you're going to be sitting there with your remote shutter release, watching and waiting, and you've got to be ready for when that jumps to grab a few shots. It takes a long time. I've got countless photos of waterfalls with no salmon, countless tails, countless heads. But it's challenging, but it is really rewarding when you get an image like that, especially when you win a competition with it, you know, hey ho. But let me just show you another example. Here's another image that was done on the same day. And what's quite nice about this image is you've got the slightly different composition, so slightly behind the salmon and the tail's flicked up. It's a really nice image. But what I'm going to tell you about that image may surprise you. Now, I use a Canon 1DX Mark II and Pro lenses, so that's great. And a lot of people would say, well, your salmon image is stunning, but of course you've got that special lens and a really good camera. This image I've just showed you is one of our members who, in fairness, has just upgraded from the beginner membership to the Pro level, not because she's particularly keen on setting up a business, especially, but it's more about having the irregular contact with me on a one-to-one basis. But she came to the workshop, and she was with me, and I was stood with her, helping her with the settings on this. Now, and she got that photo, which is incredible. But what's even more incredible about it is it's a Canon 70D. And so for those Canon users out there, I won't tell, I don't like giving people's names out, but she knows who she is, so she's well chuffed for that photo, and she should be. It's a very entry level, quite old. I think it's been out 5-6 years, the 70D, and a fairly basic lens. And so what the point I'm making here is that you do not need to have really expensive, you know, high level equipment to get images. If you know what you're doing, and with the support we do in the academy, I can help you get the best out of whatever camera you got, smartphone to $6.5 grand 1DX Mark III, and we have that range in the academy, and everything in between. And so it's just really important. I mean, let me give you an example if I can find it. Another image that is very popular when I put this on Facebook. Here we go. This is a dog. I like dogs. This is my dog Badger. And that image, when I put that on Facebook in the past, people love it. And I often get people messaging me going, "Oh, that's such a nice image, Carl. Can you tell me what your settings were? What kind of camera was it?" I'd love to be able to do stuff like that. iPhone. In fact, there it is. It's on the front of my iPhone. One of my favorite images, actually. You can probably see it there, but it's not going to focus on it, but there you go. And and that's, you know, iPhone, smartphone technology is brilliant. It's not taken over the world in terms of what we do, but it is definitely a big part of it now. So we have to embrace it. But knowing how to use your settings, knowing a bit more about photography, there's lots of things you can do with the smartphone over and above just pointing and shooting it to get those images. So that's kind of what we tend to do sort of in the amateur area. And it bleeds over. I mean, obviously, the lady with the salmon, she was a beginner at the time, and now she's all excited and doing really well and is looking to upgrade her camera, and we're working on that at the moment, trying to work out which is the best one. So what if you're a pro? Oh, excuse me, it's a cough. So annoying. Or if you join as a pro, aspiring pro, notwithstanding the fact that some people join for that just because they want to do one-to-ones with me and have all that sort of extra access. But if you're thinking about setting up a business, or you've got a business, what do we cover? And the first thing to say, and I think I've already mentioned it, is, you know, I share everything I've learned in 30 years of photography and in the last 5.5 years of Carl Thomas photography. It's a business that's doing well. It's got a combination of about 30,000 people on the various social media platforms that follow me. I'm out doing, not at the moment, because of obvious reasons, but, you know, I'm doing various sessions most weeks very regularly, and I've got very, very happy clients. I have a look at the reviews, and it generates a very good income as a living. So, you know, whether it's landscapes, whether it's people, whether it's newborns, street photography, whatever it is that you want to do as a business, whatever your passion is, I can tell you, and I've run lots of businesses in my time and done lots of different things, it does not get better than making a living from something that you're passionate about, which is your hobby. So there you go. So, but one of the most common things that we'll be dealing with our pros, apart from settings and getting, you know, galleries and getting everything right, obviously, is this is a popular one, and it's a moving feast. It's a bit like trying to nail jelly to a wall, this. Social media, and I've got a very bespoke strategy that I've developed over the years, which works, as you'll see with the followers that I've got. So we talk about social media in detail. This is obviously about Facebook, but we cover Instagram and Twitter and all, you know, and YouTube. You know, boosted posts, Facebook ads, you know, should I do either? When should I do what? How does that integrate with my overall social media strategy? How much money should I spend? Should I spend any money at all? All that kind of stuff we cover in a lot of detail, and that's an ongoing thing. It's a big part of what underpins, like one of our members, Tony, went live last Friday, nearly 400 people following him already. And they're not, we don't buy followers, they're genuine people who have, because of the way we set it up, are following him, and you're getting bookings and interest already. You know, I've got another member, or other members in the group who've set up businesses in the previous months who've now had multiple 5-figure orders in. Not 5-figure, 4 figures. So, you know, over £1,000 orders quite regularly. So when we open tomorrow night and you have a look at what it costs, in the scheme of things, I think it's a no-brainer. But, you know, the marketing team, the finance team are a bit like too cheap. But anyway, so what else will we cover for the pros? So this is another thing. It's a really important part of any business where you're looking to earn money, whether it's a hobby, whether you want to do it just at weekends, or a full-time business. You need to understand where you're going to get your customers from. Where is your target audience? What is your target audience? Where do they reside? How do you get to them and turn them into prospects and engage with them? And then, you know, how do they ultimately convert them into customers and deliver a service to your customers that they're happy with? That gives you a good reputation, and that makes you a decent living. So we cover all those kind of things. Let me check for questions. No more questions at the moment. That's fine. Anybody got any questions? Drop them in there. I'm more than happy to do that. That's a big reason why I do this, to be honest. Right. One last thing. Oh, here we go. Is that a question? Good question, Darren. I'm glad you asked that, and I'm making a note of this to remind people. So there is no tie-in. You know, I've been in business long enough to know that, you know, there's nothing worse than sort of joining something and going, oh, I'm stuck with this for a year. So there's two options. You can join as a monthly member, and you can cancel whenever you want. I don't think we've ever had anybody do that yet, which is great. But if you or annual, now annual is better value, and so on the monthly basis you can cancel whenever you like, and on the annual one we give you a couple of weeks. You know, if you join on the annual basis, because the saving is significant, and you find out for a couple of weeks or so that it's not for you, or it's wrong, then it's a full refund, and you can leave us. I'm very comfortable saying that. Never happened, but yeah, it's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. Right, I'll just show you one more thing. No, I'll show you a few more things. It's only half an hour. So here's just an example. I'm not going to go through all the words on this because you'll fall asleep. But you know, in where people say to me, so birds in action or action shots, getting sharper images. You know, people say, oh, that's about faster shutter speed and everything else. Here's a flavour of the kind of things that I was talking about just when we're talking about getting sharp shots. I'm not going to count them, but there's probably 10, 15 things on there. There's a whole raft of things, all individually, small little things, combined, that lead to the kind of images that you'll see on certainly on my dog photography page, and some of the wildlife stuff you'll see on the Beyond the Lens Academy now. Let's see on there. No problem, Darren. So it's like anything with photography. If you understand the bigger picture and understand all the technical things, if you combine them all, it will get those images standing out for you. Right, let's just see. What else have we got? That's my phone buzzing away. Classic. Let's have a little look. Now, this is something that comes up a lot. Let's just talk about editing. And if anybody's got any questions, bring them up. I'm all happy to answer it. But editing is a big part of the academy. It's a big part of photography. And so JPEG versus RAW comes up. Now, for you beginners that are thinking about joining or watching, don't be put off by the fact I'm talking about editing, because you don't have to edit images, and you don't have to spend a lot of money on editing software either. And some of the stuff out there is free, all of which we cover in the academy. But the start point is the format of image that you're shooting. Now, your camera can shoot in JPEG or RAW. I just want to find me pictures a minute, right? So what's the difference? So a RAW image is what most people who are, once they fall in love with photography and they're moving forward, will be shooting in. Because a RAW image is what it says, it's RAW. So my camera takes 20 odd megapixel or megabyte file. So there's a big file in terms of, I'll get less on a card, but all of the data that is captured in that image is on that sensor, not manipulated, it's all there. What that means though, a RAW image is actually raw. So it's one of my little analogies. It kind of looks a bit raw when it comes. It will look nice on the back of the camera, and this catches a lot of people out. They think, oh, I'm shooting raw, this looks all right. The back of the camera is a JPEG. If you're shooting raw, what you're looking at is a JPEG rendition of it, and any of the settings you've got in your camera to do with color balance and picture style are affected on that back picture. So when you look at it on your computer, a raw image will always look a little, it doesn't always, but it will often look a little bit flat, maybe not tack sharp, but that's because it's raw. It needs to be finished off, cooked, if you like. So at the very least, you'll need to do your crop, which is you have to do any kind of image if you're moving things around. But you might need to add a little bit of sharpening, a little bit of color balance, a little bit of warming up, a bit of contrast, and all those things. So that will always be the case with the raw image. Now, a JPEG image is sort of the pros and cons. I was talking about this with our members the other day as one of our webinars. One of the sort of considered pros of a JPEG is its size. They're typically, and you can set this in your camera, if you pick small JPEG, on my cars, I use a 32 gigabyte card typically, and it will get 1,000 images on it, whereas the JPEGs, I probably get 5,000. So you can get more on a card. Now, memory cards used to be really expensive, and they're not nothing now, but they are a lot less expensive. So that benefit's kind of a bit lost. But one of the other things about a JPEG is it will do like a bit of an edit. So based on your settings in your camera, so where you've got your color balance and picture style and all those kind of things, that will be done. So you take the picture, it does a little edit and then saves it. So a JPEG straight out of the camera, put on a screen of the same subject, can often at first glance look slightly better because it'd be a little bit warmer. It's got a tiny bit of sharpening done to it, which you can't undo, and various other bits to it. Its color range, in terms of the amount of colors that are in a JPEG, is significantly less though. I think it's something like 16 million or something like that. That is in color range that's in a JPEG, and on a RAW it's like 160 million or some ridiculous figure. But anyway, let's not get into technical stuff. But where the issue comes, so JPEG's fine. So if you're a beginner and you're using a phone or you're using an entry-level DSLR and you don't do any editing, JPEG's absolutely fine and perfect for Facebook and websites and stuff like that. No problem at all. But if you want to edit and do things with your images, you really need to be shooting in RAW, because the biggest disadvantage of JPEG is hidden in the fact that the size is smaller. So you've got to think, well, two images of the same thing on one RAW, one JPEG, one's 20 megabytes, one's 2. 18 megabytes of data is gone. And so the way it does it compresses the file. If you look at this image here, this is a RAW image, unedited. Where there's black around the dog's face is, where the pixels are similar, it bins those. It's sort of like it's got an algorithm in it, and the green and the sort of beige in the background, it does that and it gets rid of it. Now that makes the file smaller and it compresses stuff. So then if you go into Lightroom or Snapseed or whatever you're using for editing, and you start to move the slider around, if you imagine the slider's in the middle here, put a pen up, probably easy. Imagine that's a slider and you've got this much latitude. In a JPEG, you've probably got that. After that, you start getting pixelation and artifacting because half the data's gone, so you haven't got the same latitude. Now, let me show you this image again. This is shot in RAW, and if this was a JPEG, I wouldn't be able to recover much detail in that black because it would have almost gone. But because it's a RAW image, finishing it off in Lightroom, is able to turn that image into that. And that's one of the huge benefits of shooting in RAW. You've got all the data. Now, don't be put off by editing, and it might seem complex, and people, again, look at the reviews. It's a big part of what we do in the Academy, and I take people through step by step, for example, on Lightroom, which is something I use a lot, how to import images, how to export images, how to use the stuff in the middle. And we've got loads of members, especially the beginner and amateur level, who've just really started to get into editing, who absolutely love it. It becomes mildly obsessive then, because you go, blimey, look what I can do with an image. And they start really falling in love with their photography. So just thought I'd touch on that. Right, okay, I'm conscious of time, 40 minutes. So let's see any more questions. Let's have a little look. No, there isn't. So a couple of things then to summarize. The Academy, how do you join? I mentioned there's annual and monthly memberships. We are finalising the pricing at the moment. The intention was, we've been open for quite a while now, and each time we open, we had a founding member launch right at the beginning of the year, and people were able to join at a very significant discount, and that's brilliant. And each time we open the doors, the prices are sort of going up now. We intended on this one to be increasing them again. We've taken the view, or I've taken the view, just told people that given everything that's going on, we're going to keep the cost price the same. We're going to be showing what the new prices are likely to be, so the discounts. But the current discounts are sort of anything up to 40%, so they're amazing offers. So it's monthly and annual, and I've already talked about whether you're tied in or not, because you're not. We're what's called a closed membership. This is something that I often get asked about. The reason you can't join now, and the reason we only open a few times a year, is because all the stuff I've just been talking about, the team are obsessive about our members. We're about looking in, working with our members on one-to-ones, face-to-face stuff, online stuff, messaging, and that is all, I'm obsessive about helping and supporting, and so are the team. So that's our priority. We are a business, obviously, so we need to open and let new members in, which is what we do. But we just do it a few times a year, so that our time is 95% on our members and 5% on external marketing and doing what I'm doing now, frankly, because I'm telling you about the Academy. So that's why it's done. We open on midnight tomorrow night, 12 or 1 a.m. So it might be slightly before, because I often just get it done because it's a bit late. And then we're open from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Sunday midnight we close. Now, the reason we do that is what I've just explained. We let everybody in, and that's great. Get all the new members in, and I'll start scheduling the one-to-ones and welcoming everybody in. All that stuff goes on. But we do close. And every time we open the doors, I get a message on the Monday, if it's been a weekend or the day after close. Or I usually get a couple or three, where people say, oh, so I can't, I was busy, I forgot, I wanted to join, but, can I join? And my answer is no. And I think the reason I do that is because I don't think it's fair or right to say to people what I'm saying at the moment, which is, we're open for 3 days, don't miss out. We've got great offers, make your decision, join, all that kind of stuff. And then actually not do that and let people in on the Monday and Tuesday. So when we're shut, we're shut. Will we open again this year? I'm hoping we can do one in December, but it's not looking likely at the moment, based on sort of the technical side of what we've been talking about, and also the fact that we always get a fairly significant influx of new members when we open the door, so we'll be spending time with them. So I wouldn't rule it out, but we'll see. So you'll be able to go to, what happens is, to join, you go to the website, www.beyondlensacademy.com, and at the moment you can see a thing that looks like, pictures, looks like this. And this summarizes, there's lots of things on the website, all the information's on there, all the workshops and everything else, but this shows you a summary of what each of the levels have in them. And at the moment it says, take me to the beginner membership page, the little blue box at the bottom. That will take you to a page. There's a little video of me. It's a 1-minute video just saying, great, glad you're here, these are the reasons you might want to be joining, or so on. But it's got more information about that specific level. But the button to join will just say we're opening in, well, it's probably not close, not different, it's almost 24 hours now, it's a little countdown time. On midnight, on Thursday or tomorrow night, or slightly before, that will change, and you'll be able to check out and join, subscribe. So it's no more complicated than that. What I suggest you do, though, if you are not sure about joining the Academy, or you're not ready, or you don't want to spend the money at the moment, which is understandable, then these webinars that I'm doing today, or this Facebook Live, I try and do one or two a week if I can, definitely one. On the website, as you first go down, there's a timer at the top. I think there's another video of me whizzing on, but there's a blue button where you can join yourself on the mailing list. Now, I don't spam lots of people. It's one thing, my commitment to anybody who joins our mailing list. I don't send tons of emails out or anything like that. I've sent a few out this week to let people know about all these webinars. So if you want to be finding out when I'm doing free webinars, finding out about workshops, finding out about anything to do with the Academy, get on that mailing list, because then you won't miss out. It is on the Facebook page, but of course, social media, not everybody gets to see it. It doesn't always show up on your feed, so you might miss out. So that's one thing to do. What else have I got? Okay, I mentioned about the workshops, and have a look. Scotland's fantastic. We're up doing snow time. Let me just show you a picture of the house. Here's the house. That's at Isla. It's just beautiful. I mean, it's absolutely breathtaking. And you can bring partners. So some people look at it as a bit of a holiday. So some photographers come along with their other halves, and because it's a beautiful part of the world, there's other things to do. We've also got private little cottages. These cottages are in the grounds. It's a 40-acre estate. I mean, it is done properly. So you want to think about that. And also in Scotland, in February, we got 2 weeks in the Cairngorms. 1 week sold out, which we were lucky to get another week because it's Burns week up there. But this is the house we're staying in, all fully catered. Everybody has dinner and all covered. Lunches and stuff are covered as well. Packed lunch and stuff, a nice sort of hearty breakfast. So if you're interested in that, have a look, because we're that's getting full. It won't be long before that's full up. There's a few spaces left on both of those. What was the other thing I was going to talk about? Oh yeah, one final thing then, and I will leave you in peace. People ask me, because Christmas is coming, in terms of Christmas presents, and of course this year's going to be a bit different, isn't it? But it is what it is. If you want to join the academy, if you want to gift membership of the academy, you can do. So just give me a ring, or not give me a ring, drop me a message, or you can give me a ring if you want. My number's on the page. But drop me a message and just tell me what you want to do, and we can create a voucher for the person that says all about the academy, and it's got a tailored message on it, which we can send to you and then you can print, so you don't have to wait. It can all be done pretty quick, and then you'll just have to decide, and we can have a conversation about whether it's beginner, amateur, or pro. And typically that would be an annual membership. It's the best way to do that. You give them that on Christmas Day or whatever day it is that you're giving them the present, and they've got all the details on it. They'll message me and I'll get them active on the system. So it's a good idea, and I've had quite a lot of inquiries about that in terms of presents. So that's it, really. I can't think of anything else on my list. I've covered pretty much everything. It's been quite a good one, long one. So if any more questions before I start wrapping up, let me just double check. So Darren's giving me a smiley face on that. Yeah, so Darren, just drop me a message, and same with TJ. Just drop me a message and we'll have a chat. So all I've got to say now really is thanks for joining. Because we're opening the doors tomorrow, I'm back here again. Let me check my calendar, because I got this wrong the other day and I got told off. I'm back live here at 4 o'clock today, actually. So if you've got anything that you've thought about through this webinar that you sort of think, I wouldn't mind asking that, come back at 4 o'clock, you'll see it. Tomorrow, because we're opening the doors in the evening, I've got one at 9 o'clock. It's all on the website. All on the Facebook page. So if you scroll down, you'll see the little events, or it says I'm going live. If there's anyone you like that you think you can make, just click the reminder. It'll email you then. Well, I don't, but Facebook does. So there's one at 9 o'clock, one at midday, and then one at 6 o'clock. No, 14 and no, what am I talking about? 4 o'clock. So I'm lying. That's tomorrow. Tomorrow we've got midday and 8 o'clock. I don't want in the evening, because I know it's difficult during the day. So 8 o'clock tomorrow night. The evening ones are really popular. So midday in the evening tomorrow, and then on Friday it's 9 o'clock midday and 4 o'clock. And I think I actually might even pop on live over the weekend as well. Yeah, probably am. Saturday and Sunday. So lots going on. So if you've got any questions, join me and ask them. That'd be great. I'd love to see you in the academy, obviously, or at least on some of the webinars. It'd be great. So look, thanks for joining. I appreciate your time and your input and your questions. And hopefully see you in the academy or on one of the webinars soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.